Hey everyone, so in this video we will discuss some of the various gases and how they are transported in the blood. Some of this you already know because we talked about it throughout this chapter and a previous chapter. First one, oxygen is going to combine with iron in the hemoglobin and therefore create oxyhemoglobin. From there, it can travel around the body and get dropped off at various tissues so they can do cellular respiration. So that part we should hopefully feel pretty comfortable with, but if not, you have an opportunity right now to continue to review that. CO2, we talked about this, but it'll be good to talk about again. So in CO2, about 7% of carbon dioxide gets dissolved in the plasma of the blood, and about only 23% is going to combine with the amino groups of hemoglobin to connect to it similar to how oxygen connects to hemoglobin. So only about 30% of the CO2 in your blood is going to remain as carbon dioxide, or essentially carbon dioxide. What's kind of interesting here, and this is something we alluded to earlier in this chapter, but now we will fully talk about this, is how 70% of CO2 is actually going to react with water found inside of your blood, and therefore it is going to create carbonic acid. So, in other words, the CO2 gets into your blood and turns into carbonic acid, which therefore, as an acid, it will dissociate. If you remember any of this from chemistry class, it'll dissociate by releasing its hydrogen ions into the blood, which will do two things. Number one, that acid is now going to become a bicarbonate. So now the CO2 is no longer CO2, it becomes bicarbonate, which will travel in the blood. And once it gets to the alveoli, it'll turn back into CO2, and then you can exhale it throughout the body or out of the body. But the second thing, it kind of comes full circle here. Those hydrogen ions, if you remember that, if you have hydrogen ions, that's going to turn whatever substance that has those ions into an acid. And this is why your blood pH goes down. Because it's not CO2 necessarily that gives you an acidic blood, but when the CO2 turns into bicarbonate and then dissociates into, when it turns into carbonic acid and dissociates into bicarbonate, that H, the hydrogens that get in there, will lower your blood pH and therefore become acidic. Once you exhale this from the body, it will turn back into CO2 and leave. But again, most of this should be review, but at the same time, hopefully this comes full circle here with why your blood pH will decrease if you have too much CO2 in your blood. If you have any questions at this point, please let me know.